The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
With so many people living longer, the fear of outliving your money becomes a reality for many of us. Will I be a financial burden? Will I outlive my money? How will I be remembered? My name is Neil Himmelstein, president of Main Street Planning Group. Please contact me by visiting mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. I will introduce you to strategies that will guarantee you will not outlive your money, that can guarantee you will not be a burden on your loved ones. Through a collaborative approach, we will uncover solutions that offer tax-efficient strategies, lifetime income, and legacy planning, choice, organization, direction, and education. That is the code we stand behind. Contact mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. And listen to me every Friday at 3 p.m. as I host the Main Street Code for Financial Success, right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Good afternoon. This is Neil Himmelstein. You're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I advise hundreds of financial advisors across the country in the areas of life insurance, long-term care, disability, and financial planning. You can reach me at 631-647-4694. There's no charge. You can call me anytime for advice. I can help you. If it's an area that I'm not a specialist in, I will connect you with the correct people to help you solve your issues and help you create financial success for yourself. We talk about code. Code is a choice, organization, direction, and education. We always want you to have the best available choices. We keep up with the latest taxes and the latest insurance issues. And believe me, the world is changing dramatically. Last week, we talked about all the tax proposals from Biden that is coming down the pike. And there's a lot of taxes being proposed. One is the elimination of 1031 exchanges, or the limitation of how much you can do on a 1031 exchange. For those of you who don't know, it's when you exchange commercial real estate from one property to another and you delay the tax. It's a big deal. They're going to cut that down, or they're looking to cut that down. They're also looking to cut the estate tax down to a much lower level than it is now for transfers. They're looking to decouple the gifting and the estate tax for transfers. They're looking to tax your IRAs quicker than ever. Let's face it, folks. The government needs money. We have spending plans, and we're in debt, and we have lots of infrastructure and different things the government would like to do. The only way they know how to pay for it is to gain revenue. The way they gain revenue is to tax you. But the one clear light at the end of all this and all these products that they're taxing, the one product that has been left alone for 130 years or 200 years is life insurance. There is no taxes on the deferral of life insurance, cash value life insurance, zero. If you structure your plans properly, you can take the money out of life insurance, income tax free, no 1099s, no taxes, none. And if you should pass away with your life insurance, it goes to your beneficiaries, tax free. And an added feature that we discussed last week, if you put it into a irrevocable life insurance trust, it is estate tax free. There's nothing else that you can do today to not pay taxes, including if you inherit a house and there's a huge gain. They're talking about capital gains. They're talking about getting rid of step up in basis, which means if my house was my grandfather's house and it started at $200,000, or was a farm and it started $1 million, and now I pass away, it's worth $5 million. It's recognized as $5 million today. But if you pass away with that farm on the new proposals, your inheritance tax will be based on a capital gain plus estate taxes. The capital gain of $4 million on passing on that farm, okay? A big tax, and then in addition, estate tax. The only solution in that situation, if you haven't done planning, is to what? Sell the farm to pay the tax. So you need to plan ahead of time for any of these eventual events, and the time to plan is now. And the reason to plan now is you want to plan when you're younger, and you want to plan when you're healthier, because you start to run out of options. You run out of product, you run out of price, you run into difficulties. So again, life insurance is the only protection mechanism from an investment standpoint. I don't care if you're the best investment guru in the world, and my kids like to talk about Bitcoin and Dogecoin and Ethereum and all these great this, and this guy talked about this investment, but you know what? Every one of those investments create current taxes. And even your IRAs and 401ks that you've done so great with and the market's done so well with, when you take that money out, is income taxable and could be potentially estate taxable. And the income from that could be forced out within 10 years after your death, so that all that great accumulation and legacy you've built up could go to Uncle Sam to do with what Uncle Sam would like to do. So along the way, you need to invest in yourself. You need to invest wisely in yourself. You don't need to just diversify your assets. You need to diversify your tax classes. You don't want to wait till you're retired to then decide, what money do I have? My parents, when they retired, everything they touched, they didn't want to touch money. They were very frugal. Why? Everything they touch had a tax to it. Everything. And it's only going to get worse, not better, because our government, state and federal, is out of money. Okay? And they want to spend to improve our lives. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. That's the nature of the world. If we want to improve our infrastructure, if we want to improve our health care, if we want to protect ourselves in different ways, they have to raise revenues or drive down the Long Island Expressway. If any of you have driven down the Long Island Expressway recently and run over the 10,000 potholes that I ran over to this morning, you get the idea. The money has to be invested or we will crumble. So where are they going to get the money? From taxes. Now, people making over $400,000 are the ones being targeted. But I'm going to tell you that it affects everyone. Maybe it's our parents. Maybe it's us. When our accumulated wealth is being taxed. It's not just our income. It's our accumulated wealth is being taxed. So these are the things that we talk about. I've also spent a lot of time talking about long-term care insurance, protecting you from a nursing home. It's the idea of buying some sort of insurance to protect you from a nursing home taking your money and protecting you from having to rely on Medicaid for your money is essential. The odds are 70% of us after age 65 will need some sort of care, meaning we can't perform 2 out of 6 activities of daily living at some point in the future. The other 30% of us will be taking care of that 70%. It's extremely costly, extremely. Assisted living here and nursing home, $400 or $500 a day. It's big money. It's real money. And if you don't have the assets to pay for it, you have to impoverish yourself, go into medical poverty, and then that's when Medicaid comes in. And then Medicaid, you have to apply for a bed somewhere if you have to go in a nursing home, or you don't really have the choices. Medicaid's going to dictate how much you can get for home care. Maybe they'll put you somewhere. Maybe they'll choose where they put you if you can't choose. It takes the cost of financial freedom from you and from your children and from your grandchildren. So the only way to protect it is to buy some sort of insurance to protect it. Now, I went through the different ways you can buy it. A standalone policy today, there's really very few carriers now offering it. And because there's very few carriers offering it, they're looking to raise their prices again now. They've already filed with New York State. I've been fighting this for a while now. I've been in this dogfight for a long time. You have to protect yourself. Nobody's going to be there to protect you if you don't protect and invest in yourself. That's the main theme. Listen, you're listening to Neil Himmelstein at MainStreetPlanningGroup.com. I could be reached at 631-647-4694. You're listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success, and my website is MainStreetPlanningGroup.com. Neil Himmelstein, MainStreetPlanningGroup.com. Call me anytime, ask me any question, and if I can't help you, I'll get you the people that can. Thank you, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. This is Neil Himmelstein. I can be reached at 631-647-4694. We talked about a number of topics. In the past, we talked about guaranteed income for life. We had a program, we discussed pensions. We talked about life insurance. I just got finished talking about long-term care insurance and how to protect yourself. There are many financial tools. I don't care if you're just started working at a job and you're a millennial and you're just starting out. We have plans for them, plans for you. If you're a parent, there are plans for you. If you are a very well-to-do person, there are plans for you and things that need to be considered. Last week I touched on another subject, which was life insurance trusts, and I want to go into that a little more in depth. A life insurance trust, an irrevocable life insurance trust, allows whatever you put into that policy to pass on estate and federal and state income tax free. One of the planning issues that has come up over recent years is people that have done some planning and they've bought life insurance and they've set up a life insurance trust, but they didn't put the life insurance inside the trust. The death benefit of the life insurance then becomes part of their estate and is taxable. If they don't put it inside their trust, it is not estate taxable. Once again, if you do the planning, the initial planning, and you set up an irrevocable life insurance trust, your policy must be in there and the beneficiary of that policy has to be in that trust. Otherwise, you've wasted a lot of money. One of the other things that you need to consider when reviewing your policies, and you should review your policies every single year. And I talk about this all the time, and the reason we talk about it is policies have changed over the years and are continually changing. Some of your cash value permanent policies were predicated on an interest rate. They may have been built back in the 80s or 90s when interest rates were much higher, and now they're much lower. So maybe that policy will not last. The way an insurance policy lasts is you have to put your money in a bucket. That bucket has a little hole in it called the cost of life insurance. If there's not enough money in that bucket, that hole gets wider and wider and wider. And if you're depending on the interest rates to support that bucket and the interest rates go down and that hole gets wider and wider, it runs out of cash. And if it runs out of cash, it runs out of life. And if it runs out of life, you have nothing. And not only that, if you had a whole life or you had a big gain in it because it was paying dividends for years and years, and it was paying dividends of, let's say, 7, 8, 9%, and the dividends are now at 3%, many policies go into what they call an automatic loan status. If you let a policy lapse or it runs out of money and it has a loan on it, guess what? Not only do you not have any life insurance, you're going to have to pay a tax. All those dividends you've earned all those years will now be taxable to you. And people don't understand that or need that. Well, I don't need this anymore. Look, I borrowed money out of my policy. I did this and that. And they never recouped the money, or they was keeping doing something. So we have programs that will rescue you if that's the case. If you have a big loan on your old whole life policy that you bought many years ago, or your parents do, or because they used it to buy a business and they never paid it back, well, that loan is growing and growing and growing. So they usually have a loan rate on those loans. And those loan rates, especially if it was paying a high dividend back in the 80s or 90s when you had 9 and 10% dividends, the interest rate on that loan is like 9 or 10%. And the dividends now are paying 3%. So does that make any sense to you? How's that policy going to last? So that loan has to be, we do special programs that we call loan rescue programs, where we put it into a different type of policy at a much lower loan rate and pay back the loan from the cash inside the policy. Very technical thing, but you need to look at it. Or we now have specific banks that may take those old whole life policies with 8% loans and refinance them, if you're not healthy and you can't get another policy, into maybe prime or prime plus 1, a significantly lower interest rate, which can save that policy for your beneficiaries with limited money, where your dividends could possibly keep up with the loan rate. So these are things you have to watch out for. The biggest other thing you have to watch out for is if you've had change in life or beneficiaries over the years. Very important that you review the beneficiaries. Like I said, let's say you had a life insurance trust and the beneficiary were your kids or your wife. Well, if it's your kids, it's included in your estate. If it's not inside the trust has to be the beneficiary. Very important fact. Or let's say you had 2 kids and then years later you had a 3rd kid, but you never put that 3rd kid on the policy. Well, the death benefit on life insurance goes by the contract. That 3rd kid is not the beneficiary of that contract. Another thing that you have to look out for is if you have a child with special needs. Now, we haven't gone into a lot of that, but if you have an autistic child or a child that can't handle money or they've had a lot of problems, there's a couple things you can do. One thing you can do is the beneficiary of a life insurance policy, you don't have to give the whole lump sum. You could set it up so they get money over time or have a guardianship. Or there's another type of trust you can set up called a special needs trust. Now, why do you want to set up a special needs trust? You don't want that child who has special needs to inherit your house, because you will preclude them from any benefits that the government has to offer to take care of that person. Very important. Special needs trusts have to be established. The best asset to have in a special needs trust happens to be a life insurance policy, which will be cash for that beneficiary inside that trust and can be managed to where the participant or the beneficiary or that autistic child or I'm picking on autistics or a child who has other issues, who can't handle money, that money can be guarded and they can still benefit from all the government benefits if it's inside that trust. So there's special planning needed if you have a child with special needs. All these different things come into play. I'm not an attorney. We will certainly can help you gain an attorney who's very well equipped in that area, and you want an attorney who knows how to draw up an irrevocable life insurance trust, not an elder attorney, an estate attorney. A lot of elder attorneys, I hate to say it, have gone into the business of elder care planning, and they call it elder care planning, and they're planning for Medicaid, I don't plan for people to be poor. I want people to be wealthy. Okay, the last thing I want is somebody, here, let me hide your assets so you could be poor so you can collect from the government. Not the way to go. Protect yourself. I teach people how to protect themselves. So no matter where your assets are, we talk about direction and organization. The first step we do is we'll sit down and we will organize your assets. Where are your assets? Are they in IRAs? Are they not in IRAs? Is your house in a trust? If you have investment property, is it in a limited liability corporation? Do you own it outright? What are your liabilities? All these things come into play. And you're listening to Neil Himmelstein, 631-647-4694. My firm is Main Street Planning Group. And you can see me on the web at mainstreetplanninggroup.com. Call me anytime, and I will help you go over your issues. Or have your financial advisor call me, and I will help them with any issues that you may be having with anything. Just call me anytime. Thank you. Have a great day. Have a beautiful afternoon. Neil Himmelstein, Main Street Planning Group.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.